Hello fans of Christmas! Today I'm going to show you how I made a 3D sparkly ornament out of cookies. I'm starting with some really cold dough rolled out about 1/4 of an inch thick, and then I'm using these silicone molds that I bought from Amazon. They are able to go in the oven, and I'm going to use a circle cutter, one that's just slightly larger than the mold. And I'm going to cut out 2 pieces and then drape them over top of the mold. I'll also share the link to these molds in the description. Once I had the dough cut out, I just gently pressed it around the edges. I made sure that it was centered in the middle of my mold and then just gently tapped around the edges to make sure that it forms to the sides. And I repeated the process with the second dough circle. I'm going to bake these at 375 for about 15 minutes. These came out of the oven beautifully golden, perfectly baked, and they popped right off the molds. These fit together perfectly, so I don't have to shave anything down, but you can use a grater if yours need to be shaved down a little bit. Next, I'm using some stiff white icing. And to this, I'm adding some Aster Mauve color from Wilton, though of course you can make yours whatever color you'd like. I'm using a small offset spatula, and I'm going to frost this cookie just like I would a cake. Because it's a half sphere, it's a little bit more difficult to get this even, so I'm spreading it as evenly as possible. At this point, I'm not frosting the edges of the cookie so I can handle it, and I will go back later and fill that in. Immediately while the icing is still wet, I'm sprinkling some sugar crystals onto the top and then filling in with actual sugar. There's enough of a coating on it now that I can pick it up and lightly tap my finger to smooth out some of those icing lines. And if the icing sticks anywhere, just grab a little bit more sugar and sprinkle on, and then you should be able to pat it down. Repeat the same process for the other half sphere. While the icing's drying, I baked another small circle for the little top of the ornament. So I'm actually making 2 of the same size because I want the top part where you would hang an ornament and then also a little bit of stability for the bottom. I baked these at 350 for 8 or 9 minutes. Now everything's dried and cooled, and we are going to string our ornament. I'm using jewelry string that I bought at Michael's, and using my scribe tool, I'm going to pop a hole into the center of one of the small pieces. And I'm going to push my string through the hole and tie it together. The length of the string should be enough that you can make a loop so you can actually hang your ornament on the tree and then go through the entire center of the cookie. Also consider you're going to have a couple of knots in there. Once you get it through the cookie, you don't want to tie it against the cookie. You want to tie the string to the string because it could crack the cookie. So I just made a loop and then I made a little knot back onto the actual line. This took a few minutes to complete, and I did double knot it. Once your loop is securely knotted, you're going to take 1/2 of a sphere and your thick icing and pipe around the edge of one of the spheres. And lay the string across the center, making sure that the top is pulled tightly towards the sphere. Now sandwich together with the other half of the sphere. I scrunch up a couple of napkins to make somewhat of a cushiony bed for the sphere to sit on as it's drying, and then we're going to put the bottom piece on next. I cut down the bottom piece so it's just a small little piece that I'm going to put on the bottom. I didn't want it to be too visible, but I did want to string the line through it just to give a little bit more stability. Then I used my scribe tool to make another hole and strung it to the line. I made a double knot on the line again, making sure that I didn't loop it through my cookie so I didn't break it. And I'm pushing that piece right up against the icing on the bottom to make sure that everything is nice and secure. I cut off my excess string and then let this dry for about 30 minutes or so just to make sure the icing firmed up nicely. Now that my icing is set, I can go back and pipe in the areas that still do not have icing, and I'm going to smooth it out with my offset spatula again. I'm doing one side at a time, and I am going to sprinkle again with the sugar crystals and then the granulated sugar. I'm going to pat down my lines and then repeat the process on the other side. I went off camera a little bit here, but I did pipe some icing right underneath the top and then pressed it down so that it was nice and firm against my ornament, scraping off any excess icing. And I completely covered the bottom with icing, smoothed it out, and then also sugared it just to make sure that it was completely secure. I'm going to place this back on my napkin pillow and let it dry, and then I'm going to complete the top of my ornament. For the top, I'm using some gray firm royal icing, and I'm starting at the center and piping some lines out to the edge. I'm doing these sporadically around the circle and leaving some space in between each, and then I'm going to go back and fill those spaces with lines. Once the first layer was down, I went back over top with one more layer just to give it extra texture. I let this dry completely, and then I moved on to our last step. For the last step, I have some silver metallic food coloring, and I'm just going to paint the top of my ornament with a paintbrush. This was actually airbrush coloring, so it's already a little bit thinner, so I did not add any water to this. I just painted it directly on. Now it's time to hang it up and show off your favorite ornament to all your friends. And thank you to everyone who has been following along this year. I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and come back next year for more fun.